What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the BlockHash Podcast, episode 392. Today, welcoming back on Sam Rad, a author, a speaker, a futurist, talking about radical next ideas. She has a new book coming out. She has a brand. She has a lot of ambitious things she's doing in the realms of AI and beyond. So we're going to talk about that today with her on the show. Before you do, a quick message from our sponsor, Bump Social. Bump Social is a fantastic, revolutionary new social media platform that is now out on iOS and Android, where you can connect like never before with other people outside and people within existing communities that you have as a creator, as a brand, as a business, as an advertiser. If you want to reach those people, this is a unique opportunity to take advantage of a platform that's actually for you, built for users, built for advertisers, built for businesses, for creators, for influencers, rather than being in the hands of big tech. It's for you. Protect your data, protect your content, protect your right to monetize. Make sure to check them out in the link in our description down below if you want to learn more and download the app today. Sam, super happy to have you back on the show. It's been quite a while. We did an episode a long time ago. I know a lot of things have changed, and you're doing tons of new things now, and very excited to kind of peel back the layers a little bit and see what you're doing in terms of Radical Next and the new book you have coming out. Your AI, I thought was really, really cool. Welcome back on. How you doing?
It's good to see you. It's good to see you virtually. I know we saw each other in person, which was really cool over this past summer.
We did.
So we did. When virtual friends become real life friends, it's always beautiful. Times continue to evolve and change, and I'm enjoying every step of the way. Still very much not, I would say, like, of the opinion, but it's a lot of the things that some of the early folks in the decentralization perspectives and movements and early blockchain infrastructure side of things, both on enterprise or consumer side. I feel like I've been talking about them for 10 years because I have. And we're at this moment where a lot of things that were just like simply, I feel like we're like advocating or saying this will be necessary at some point, and no one really understood why, or we'd have to explain why, are happening in this moment, particularly because of the convergence of some, other technologies, whether we're talking about artificial intelligence or quantum computing, but also, underlying shifts in sociocultural values or geopolitical interests. So it's, we're at this really unique moment where the convergence of all these things really necessitates some form of, distributed ledger technology. It maybe doesn't necessarily have to be one that is in existence yet, though I hope so. But yeah, we're definitely at this moment, which excites me.
Yeah, it feels like the singularity is starting to finally happen, like right before our eyes. Like there's so many different technologies that I've been excited about for years, AI included, that are just, really starting to bust out onto the scene over the last year or so. AI has been going super fast, like nonstop in terms of growth and improvements and what it can do. And I'm just excited to see, what that future looks like and kind of unfolds into over, the next couple of years, given how fast things have changed just in the last couple. Since I came out of the pandemic, it's like we're in a brave new world already.
And again, a lot of these trends, I don't want to say, we even know this with, blockchain technology really coming together in like the 1960s or 70s. It's, it wasn't just after the Bitcoin white paper. Though awareness to the use of the technology, of course, was, perfectly timed post 2008 financial crisis, and really an awareness of a global breakdown of trust systems, particularly, in the financial institutions particularly, but AI as well. Like this is machine learning, deep learning, artificial intelligence, and all of the work that's gone into it. I don't want to say is nothing new, but with each cycle, I agree with you. We're in a moment of acceleration where I think it's probably because we have the energy, the processing power, the awareness, the usability of the tools to, I'd say, unleash this or empower individuals on the consumer side to be working with the technologies. So, before I got into the blockchain space, which most people don't know, they know maybe about like my gaming research background and Second Life and studying virtual assets then. So that was some of my academic background. I had started a company around this time, my first company. And the first two companies I founded were early AI companies. We didn't use this term then. It might have been sort of like predictive analytics, or we'd say, it was basically an online personal shopping assistant. So at the time, there was early Netflix for movies, Pandora for music. We were the system that was understanding human taste and aesthetics, particularly starting with clothing, but shopping and retail behavior. And so I had quite a bit of experience of understanding both what was to come and what you could do with a ton of data, but also from the side of misuse of this type of technology. If the proper data ownership or governance was not in place, right? And it could quickly evolve into some sort of like creepy surveillance state where, let's say, a video feed of me in a retail store. This is something we were doing, right? We're collecting data on like, oh, does someone spend more time looking at this dress versus this dress? Of course, that was feeding a system to provide recommendations when they went online to say they probably like these things more. But those data points also might have signaled this person is likely to steal. We didn't use this way, but of course, me being a bit cerebral, even at 20 years old, I was like, I don't think this is a good, we're going into a good direction with these tools. And so with each subsequent tech cycle in the mainstream media, so around that time, I wasn't really like educating or speaking at this time. I was just heads down building stuff. But there was a lot of talk maybe 10 years ago. It was always big data, this and that. Then it was Internet of Things, IoT, sensors, smart machines. Then we had this blockchain, enterprise blockchain world where, it was more out in like the public in this time. Then it went into Web3, metaverse, and now it's into Gen AI, generative AI. And I think we're moving out of that. We'll see a lot more in the year to come on, certainly with global elections, US elections, mis and disinformation, and everything that'll happen in terms of social networks, video feeds, like video content. And then I think we get into like infrastructure again with chips and quantum computing. But really, right, like it's a bigger question here. And I want to bring it back to the focus, which is mainly blockchains or governance, ownership and governance. And I had a bit of a kind of winding journey working with a number of all the technologies that I just listed. So I have quite deep hands-on experience. And if anything that I've learned coming full circle is that the approaches to how we distribute, again, data or asset ownership and governance are the most important parts about any technological system, particularly in an autonomous system, where that is only as good as the data going in, which we've said in the blockchain space forever is garbage in, garbage out. It's no different now when we just replace the technology and say AI. So while I'm excited about the promises, like there's so much cool stuff going on, and also some scary things, it's still this moment that invites us to go back to the basics and really think about the bigger questions that seem to be, we collectively tend to push off or not debate or not solve. And it's a moment where I think that we have the opportunity to construct new models and new systems.
Are these the kind of things that you talk about with your brand, Radical Next, when you're talking to people, you're giving a speech? Is this like the highlight, the focus?
Yeah. So Radical Next, again, as I've not branded myself as a futurist, people brand
Sure.
me as a whole bunch of things, and this actually does work for me. I've been consistently, I'd say, 5 to 10 years ahead on everything that I do, both in terms of businesses or ideas or everything. I feel sometimes like I'm actually living 10 years ahead, and I like come back to the past, which is the present, um, and try to make it all make sense. So yeah, I mean, the idea with that was always, it was just sort of the fringes of futurism. So of course we can contemplate what might be coming next, but really, what's the future on the fringes? What are the questions that might be more provocative, or that if we asked in a Socratic fashion, which a lot of what I do is um, reflective and Socratic by design. So instead of on a stage saying, here's what will happen, here's the linear progression, which I can do and I do know, I think where we are in human society and civilization is that we've, for honestly thousands of years, but let's just say post Enlightenment thinking, have placed so much value on prescriptive thinking, on logic, on coining this method and this term and this, even historical epoch. Like, people want me to name this era we're in, and I did. And I'm like, no, I don't want to. How like bold and egocentric is that for someone to like be like, I've owned this era? So what I do is take people through a bit of a journey through past, present, and future. I'm trained as an anthropologist, which is, a more human-centric, qualitative form of research. So participant observation, if you could even call it research, it's basically just living amongst people. And I applied this to basically technology. So I'll take people on that journey, whether it's like in our heads or through sort of a documentary experience, and show where we've been to show where we're going, and where we are in this moment, what that might mean for their industry, their organization, and also their individual self, and then what types of questions they should be asking. But really my goal, and it's always been sort of my internal mission and mantra, which came out of my involvement in the blockchain space, was to restore trust and connections with people and themselves, with each other, with all beings, with our planet, and beyond, right? Restore trust and connections. And I say trust because that was really the gap that technology was identifying and wanting to fill with a trustless solution. And it's honestly become just the why I do what I do. So to restore these connections that I think some technologies and some governance structures and this phase, the past 50 years or so, or even 100 post-industrial revolution shifts, are maybe a bit outdated, and we have opportunities to further kind of like enhance and expand with within the context, right, of a globalized, globally connected world, in terms of movement of people, but also movement of ideas. We're like talking to each other from 2 different countries over the internet right now. So
when you talk to people about this stuff, would you say the goal is, I don't know if it's both or one or the other, but to create like an awareness with people of what those fringe future timelines of tech and reality can look like, and maybe what some of the benefits and consequences are? Or is it to create a sense of inspiration so that they can start to innovate and build new things and give them new ideas?
It's both, right? So I'm an optimist. This being said, that doesn't mean that I travel in my own mind's eye to all possible narratives with strategic foresight. So we can all sit down and envision infinite possible realities for our present and for our future, depending on how we direct our awareness and build towards that, and kind of like execute along those lines. So the goal, honestly, people's feedback when I speak is like I simultaneously felt encouraged, optimistic, terrified, excited, like, all at the same time. And it's complex because I think we're all feeling the mix of emotions of what happens. It's quite exhilarating to navigate accelerating change, right? The feeling of acceleration in terms of physics is not something easy to perceive. But yet that's where we find ourselves in the exponential curve. It's like our concept of time is even a bit ungrounded. So yes, to make that short, it's very optimistic, but with also, I noticed when I was a little too optimistic, I was not of service to acknowledging the potential, let's say, darker sides of these things. And just because I had processed it doesn't mean anyone that I'm working with has. So now there's a balance to it. While I believe, again, there are infinite possible coexisting pathways for both the present and the future, I keep it simple, both in the book, the speaking, and some of the narratives that I'd like to share in other formats through, again, I don't really believe in duality, but we could say we're in a bit of a dark ages right now. We have the opportunity to step into a golden age or renaissance, defined as such as new advancements in philosophy, science, supporting the human condition to thrive, to really like reach a next level of actualization. So all the things that might support that, whether you use a framework like Maslow's hierarchy of needs or whatever, where we're supporting people's basic human needs like food and shelter and safety, governance, which we haven't done a good job of globally as a human civilization. So you could look at it this way, very much like the techno optimist utopian people, which I'm not so on that side either, but that are driven by advancing civilization. I would agree with that, right? In terms of like, let's take a notch up on the Kardashev scale. We can do it. We have the tools. But at the same time, and why I took some time actually reconnecting with my own humanity. And when we crossed paths, I was like coming off of some time like deep in the Amazon, both in Peru and Brazil. And I was like, I got rid of my everything, my computer, my phone. I was like, I'm never looking at one of these things again. Of course, it came back with a new perspective and new passion. And I think this is one of like where I differ from, let's say, other futurists or other people who happen to have a technology background, which I accidentally stumbled into. It was never my intention, is that, I advocate for this this balance. So it is important for people to feel empowered to build everything and to empower their workforce, their organizations to be on the cutting edge, because I think there is no other choice. But at the same time, we also need to balance this acceleration with, a moment to reflect, to go inward, to breathe, and to contemplate the with strategic foresight or futurism thinking, the impacts or unintended consequences of certain decisions and mitigate those before those happen. So again, full circle, where I would continue to emphasize something like a blockchain or a quantum ledger that has not been invented yet, that has some sort of quantum encryption, quantum resistant. I don't know. We're definitely there now, right? Like we need to think about these things because we're already in an era of complete data ubiquity, right? So anything related to you, including your innermost thoughts, are, despite what you may think, are pretty much digitized at this point. You don't need the chip in the brain for that to happen. the hardware and the interfaces are also getting closer to the body, right? So like we might have like had a computer in the past that you'd see only at work or in a school environment. Now they're in our pockets and on our wrists and in our ears, eyes, brain. And I don't share that to say do it or don't do it, right? There will be groups of people that adopt this and there will be groups that don't. There might be some that force people to do this or not. I don't know the varying different futures of how it'll play out. But what I do share is it doesn't need to be something where we get, again, like, fearful. Really what I say I do is I transmute fear into opportunity. So we can look at that and say, no way, I'm going to ignore it. That doesn't change the fact that these things are happening. But if we look and say, well, maybe we could build a system that at least like anticipates that and puts some sort of data safeguards, autonomy, ownership, freedom, royalties. I don't know, all the things that we've all been advocating for so long that now I hope are making sense to people a bit more on all systems. And again, I was less deep on the financial system side of this industry and not so much of a crypto person, more of an infrastructure person. So I think more in terms of, again, asset ownership and governance, identity ownership and governance, like intellectual property, which is now, I think, my biggest area of intrigue and focus in the context of generative AI, right? What's stopping someone from taking this video, plugging it into something else, cloning us, and making, like hundreds of spinoffs instantly? No one. So do we accept that as something inevitable, and what could be in place to, support original creators of intellectual property? So yeah, I mean, there are a lot of really exciting things happening.
Yeah, I think you raise a lot of good questions there that have cropped up over in the last year or so. And things like that will definitely become more and more of an issue. AI definitely is it has free reign right now to kind of do whatever it wants. Like there's no laws or regulations as to what we should do with it. Is it going to be too invasive? Is it going to violate IP? Is it going to hurt small businesses or small creators or individuals, or create problems by taking that information? Is it wrong? Is it right? What happens when we give it more unrestricted access to the internet? There's even with this podcast, there's AI out there that could very easily sub, dub, and swap us out, and it would look like they have this podcast, and we probably never even know at first, and they could create 150 pieces of content, pretty quickly.
Is it you? I mean, it's I have a video out there of me. I call it conversations with myself. It's a little performance I've
I saw it,
expanded
yeah.
with my virtual clone, and I'm actually sitting here when I created at least that backdrop. So now when I'm actually sitting on my couch, people are like, is it you or her? Like
Right.
it's definitely me. Though, those are questions that, right? Could you have imagined even a year ago? And I know actually, because a year ago I started like ringing the alarm, let's say to my family, mainly or 2 years ago, I was traveling and I was like, look, if someone sends you a voice note and it sounds like on WhatsApp and it sounds like me, double check that it's me. It might not be. Someone, might have taken me or something, or, even a video. And they're like, Sam, you are actually, are you okay? And instead of just, I have this hunch, like I'm watching these things happen. It's happening quite quickly. And I do a lot of work as well of countering like AI driven fraud a bit, on the side. Some of my speeches are focused on these things, cybersecurity, et cetera. And, lo and behold, we're seeing this now. Like, again, you could have never imagined being like, do you actually have to question if I'm the person truly showing up on this video call? or recording this podcast right now? Or have I sent my not only my virtual body double deep fake to do it? And there are ethical questions around that. There are consent questions around it, but there's also, I meet tons of people that actually, when I, let's say, cloned myself, it was this early research starting almost a decade ago, right? I've always focused from the academic side of the impacts of technology on society and humanity, but particularly around being in consciousness. So I was like early in living in these virtual worlds, being like, what does this mean? Like, what is this world? Not from necessarily like a simulation hypothesis or matrix type reality, but just understanding that that is a parallel reality for many people. At the time, this was Second Life, but I was like, there's a parallel economy, there are in-world assets, like it's a complete system. And now we, of course, see this in Web3 or crypto or beyond and gaming. And so when I did this, I was like, I'm just going to contemplate how do I feel in this process when I take, a voice model, or now when I take sort of the video or avatar, and what happens with what I call like cognitive model. And these are separate. It's not just like a LLM of my thought, that's like a glorified chat GPT. There are many pieces that I've not connected intentionally. So I don't want, it's like Harry Potter with the Horcruxes, like we don't want all of them to come together because it might be too close. Not saying that there would be an emergent consciousness, just saying that I think protecting data in this way is important. And I did this like as an art project, let's call it that, or research. And honestly, it freaked me out. And I'm still performing with her, right? Like I want to make a Broadway show with, and like I'm working on these things. But people come to me and they're like, I love it. How'd you build it? Because I want to create all these courses with my clone. Can we make a bunch of courses? And I was like, no, I don't think people will do it, and no judgment if that's part of your plan or someone's plan. I don't, but I think there will be a backlash, right? Because people do feel the difference. They strive for human connection, but it's clear that the lines are getting quite blurred.
Yeah, it's interesting because I understand some of the benefits to having it and the ways that it could help you save tons of time, be more efficient, to make money, to have someone to converse with, even on a personal level, or to experiment with, and to do new things like this. I think that there's tremendous value there that's yet to be fully tapped into. But I also understand the concerns. Just like in the past year, there was a guy called like Ghostwriter or something and created a fake AI Drake song, and it went viral, and it sounded like Drake. It was really good. There's a modeling company out of Spain that created a female model for their company because they wanted to see if they could do it instead of actually working with another model, and it blew up. And that account is really, really big on Instagram. They're making tons of money, like 10 grand plus a month on this model. It's just interesting.
I had an agency, a secret stealth agency in 2018 called Virtual Artist Agency, kind of VAA, playing off of CIA. And it was going to be either both a studio of generating virtual artists as well as representation for this fringe. And this was when I was still like in the traditional system, like pitch institutional investors. They were like, that will never happen. And I'm telling you, I'm like 5 to 10 years. And now every like big firm has like an entire division focused on avatars and virtual things. Now, I wouldn't have wanted to follow through with this because I don't think I would have wanted to put more of them out into the world. But at the same time, early with Lil Michaela or some of these virtual influencers. And now as we're seeing, even as we record this, incredible tools, with video or music generation, it is inspiring in some respects, right? If you get past the fear of, okay, will this replace artistry and art? But I think with any new tool, in the same way that I don't know who is quoted of saying this, or if it was one person, but when the camera was invented, so it goes that this someone says this will, kill art and, ruin everything and all the painters, et cetera, et cetera. And like, here we are creating a form that wouldn't have been possible or imagined at the time. Mm-hmm. So as with any change, we can't possibly contemplate what the combination of these tools might unlock in terms of human potential and creativity, which is really the it's the conclusion, but most important part of my next book, which goes through all the changes we are experiencing both from within in the concept of the self or identity or perception or community, healthcare, society, but also, at the end of the day, I think one of our main purposes, or at least a reconnection to our humanity, is creativity in the creative process, not necessarily the artifact or the product of that process, which we might call art or content, or media, but like actually the experience of harnessing, a combination of things, tools, experiences, and having an emergent experience, something new. And that's actually quite rare. If you look to nature, think about things like evolution or mutation, they're happening all the time, but the ones where, like, again, something happens, some reaction that actually changes the course of history, that's quite beautiful. But in order for that to happen, we need like new variants or entropy in any system. And I think we're in this moment where like the possibilities both to, on one hand, flatten everything to a detrimental impact, or introduce again like new emergent ideas. We're sort of, that's where I say is the potential for dark ages versus golden age. We can look at it and say, wow, potential for emergence, new thinking, new ideas at an all-time high. And the tool is that, we have all these tools to make that accessible. On the flip side, even if you're looking at like a large language model or any AI system, if you're feeding it with garbage, it's being trained on that same output garbage. It just keeps, we're repeating the same narratives, the same, I don't want to say here, like podcasts, same ideas. The echo chamber that, or set of echo chambers that we're accustomed to, both on the internet and our communities, or ideas or philosophies or what have you, will only be, exacerbated. So I think that would be the flip side of, if there's too much fear and reluctance to work with the technologies and tools with an optimistic mindset and say, okay, this is like, it's a little different. Maybe I'm a little scared. Maybe there's a bit of an existential questioning about it, but I can look at this and be creative with it. Like maybe play and create some songs. Okay. But don't steal Drake's songs. Maybe Drake needs, we need to make sure that IP is tracked on some sort of ledger, and there is some sort of royalty share that's automated and put in place, which again has been already anticipated and worked on by a lot of really intelligent people over a long period of time. So,
yeah, if I was someone like Drake, I don't know if I'd be incredibly impressed and opportunistic, or if I would be really upset and mad, because I could see both perspectives where you're like, man, I can create an AI of myself to, record all this music for me, and I can take a break for a while and I can just focus on other things. Or if it's concerning in the fact that it's going to steal revenue share and make him outdated, and everyone would be able to do it. And, there goes Drake, because you just clone and create a Drake song whenever you want. I do think there needs to be some type of governance, some type of way to regulate, not necessarily at a government level, but at a technological level, what can be done, and to also be able to show if something's original or not. So I think that's a big problem in the space, in being able to show, is this a real person, or is this borrowed from somewhere else, or where's the credit to any of these original artists or creators or businesses? I think that's kind of getting lost in the mold right now.
It was hard along the way. If we're looking at the blockchain space, even when I came together with my team for a company called Chronicled. It was 2014. And we were one of the early, we were basically brought together by a private equity fund that said, there's this new technology. It was at the time only the Bitcoin blockchain, and Ethereum was soon to be a testnet. And they said, we want you to explore non-financial use cases for this technology. We have a hunch it could be used for other things. So that was our mandate. And we basically ran a lab for 4 years where we did pretty much everything or anything that one could conceive of with this technology. We got to do it. But in the first, this was before we even got into things, because our early company was known for registering physical assets on chain, starting with like collectibles, mainly sneakers and streetwear, and then getting into luxury goods and supply chains and pretty much everything. Everything on this planet. But before that, before we went into the physical space, we were in the representation of digital identity, not of just a person, but of an asset, provenance and ownership. So early, or like ordinals, almost, it was like the team from Colored Coin. So everything that's become, let's say, ERC 721 or NFTs, this thinking was there from the beginning of the people that were saying, okay, how do we apply this beyond, let's say, a currency or store of value? In the first use cases I remember at this time were virtual likeness. So again, not just human identity, but just how it was actually a lot in the media space. So we're talking music was big, and then also like a lot of actors and these people, because there's a lot of money there where they're saying, we basically make money by selling this actor, this model, this person's likeness. They don't actually have to be here with us. And now the movies at that time were shifting into, let's say, the Marvel big budget stuff, where they can basically record. They were like deep faking people long before any of us got these fun tools to do it. So who owns the rights then to that person's likeness? Is it the studio? And what happens if you replicate it, slightly change their eye color? Now it's no longer the original even person it's representing from a legality perspective. So all of this being said, we're now in this point in time where, again, it's like, and we're seeing, let's say in the US, but also internationally, a lot of different countries are here, like on the state side, taking different approaches to laws or regulation or beliefs around, do you own the rights to your voice? Like, do you? Turns out you don't. Turns out I do. When I work turns out like I work in the speaking world, right? So do I own the right to myself, to my name? No. I mean, I actually trademarked myself as a fun experiment as well, just to be like,
Sure.
I mean, I don't think that will do anything for anyone, but all of this goes to show that we can look at that and say, okay, it's great. We have a lot of opportunities to work with tools that can prove, again, like the origin of something, whether that is like proving it's just a person versus a virtual person, if that's something we choose to value. If an idea started somewhere, or intellectual property, what's the provenance of it? That might be good, especially in terms of news and media. And you can look at it like in the case of this example with Drake, or any form of art, because I've sat with this a lot. There's a point in time when I did wipe myself off the internet and disappear, right? Because I said, I don't want to contribute more to this and like have a bunch of people copying my, you've written books as well, like just download and train some algorithm on my books and like rip off everything. And I reflected on it and I said, that's not the approach. That's not what I advocate for. It's, I can look at that and get discouraged, or I can just roll with it and have some fun and keep riding the wave and be ahead of it. So I think someone like Drake, it's like, that sounds like great marketing. If, as they say, imitation is the best form of flattery, as long as you can own that original, again, like style, it actually wouldn't hurt. It would only help. I think the thing that is breaking down at the moment is that we don't have in place. It's like everyone was taking a nap AI, generative AI at this moment empowers people all around the world to just like basically clone, copy, reproduce based off of certain inputs that were generated by others. And now we have the questions of, can we put something in place at least to track those inputs?
When's your book coming out? When can we expect to see that? I got to get a copy of it.
Yeah. It's this fall. So September, October wide release. I will have pre-order copies and some hard copies before then throughout the summer. So I might be doing some fun things with this, whether this be, I don't want to call it a book tour, just fun travels, or I might do some exciting like limited release or again first edition stuff. So I have to bring up my origins, right? I can't just
Sure.
I'm like, I can release something without like doing something fun, make some sort of seal on it. So yeah.
Yeah, you gotta get it out there a little bit and the name and promote it a little bit. So we'll definitely have to get active with it. I went through that process the last couple of years because I had a book deal with Forbes and we're publishing something under their brand, and it was very much the same thing. Like it's almost like you don't want to do it because it feels like so much extra, but and then it's like you think, well, then why did I write the book in the first place if I'm not going to promote it and get it into people's hands so they can enjoy it? So there's definitely a process there.
That's my favorite part. For the first one, which was called Bitcoin Pizza, I was very close to buying a brick oven food truck, like a pizza truck, and then driving across the country selling pizza for Bitcoin. And so the marketer, I should have done it. It would
That would have been great.
so fun and like record the whole thing. But like, so the marketing side of me is the Sam that likes to have fun side and do stupid stuff that usually works out, was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to do it. It would be the most fun road trip ever. We'll figure it out along the way. And then the marketer side of me that's like built businesses and knows how to make a spreadsheet looks at it and I was like, what's the ROI on this? Zero. And that's an example maybe in my journey where intuition would have been correct. And if not, just a fun journey. So I'm sort of moving now, with the manuscript done into the part that, I don't see things as simply promotion. It's how to make more connections with people and how to do this in a fun, creative way. For everyone involved. I don't think it works so much to buy a pizza truck this time around. And I can't also get that truck all around the world, but
it would be great content though. I could, in a way I could see it, you going state to state, city to city, and everyone's looking for the SamRad Bitcoin pizza truck. And you're out there doing some videos. Hey, would you be willing to buy a pizza with Bitcoin? Would you buy pizza if it was discounted in Bitcoin? Seeing if you could get people's reaction on camera and they'd go to pay with dollars. Oh, we don't take dollars. I'm sorry.
I'll promote the last book, from, I think I wrote it so many years ago, but it's like, I think also with timing, never say never. I can bait and switch. I'll get the crypto people and be like, by the way, do you want this other book about the future? That's actually the one that's more recent. But I've thought about something like that. In my early years, I had a website called The Crypto Trip. And it was a directory of where you could like establishments around the world that accepted crypto. And this was way too early, right? Like, first of all, no one wanted,
Sure.
You didn't want to like dox yourself of being the person that, like, it's a good way to get mugged at the time. But now there are a bunch of people doing that, which is so fun. But my dream at that time was just to like go around, travel, and talk to people about these things. And now I get to do it just in a different way.
It's good guerrilla marketing, whether it's going through the route of doing the pizza truck and seeing how that plays out, or what you have planned for Radical next. It works very well. People love I think, in-person, grind it out kind of experience, and it connects with people a bit better than just running paid ads and not getting in front of the book with an actual face.
Oh yeah, I don't know that my brain doesn't work in that way. So maybe I'll bring back the pizza truck and people will be like, I don't understand how this connects to Radical. I feel like it doesn't matter, but that's very inspiring. to
Hey
think about.
guys, I have a book and it's promoting my new book.
Yeah.
That'd be a
That's
first.
a good way to, I mean, be again a good bait and switch. There's probably the next wave of people who, in understanding now this book that I've written, that are like, well, what are the solutions to the problems that you've outlined? And be like, here's the one that came before it. Not to say that any one ideology, group of people, technology solves anything, right? That's been a lot of the problems with the thinking, and particularly it's like the Silicon Valley bubble of thinking, or tech optimists that, I kind of came up through this world and then resisted against it, in the sense that I don't think we've had a lot of really powerful technologies for a long time. And I don't see the world as necessarily being like, that alone has made the world a better place. Though plenty of people will go around telling you that, there's some sort of like magic wand in the form of any one or combination of technology. So yeah, I'm sort of more about the convergence of how we can also shift humanity and structures around that too.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to read it. I read your Bitcoin pizza book. It was very good as well. So I'm assuming this one's going to be more or less the same or better. So I'll be keeping an eye out for that. Final question before we wrap up the episode and bring it to a conclusion. Kind of going back to the overarching theme, I guess, why do you think AI needs a technology like blockchain? Can AI, survive and grow and thrive just on its own as a technology, or do we need to start connecting some of these other great technologies as well with each other to get the most out of it, whether it's in the form of governance, whether it's in the form of IP, whether it's in the form of protecting artists or creators or individuals or businesses. In your mind, how does that work for you when it comes to AI in particular?
I don't want to be too sensationalistic about it, but nothing exists in a vacuum. And I get it. If we look at, I'm broadening this, right, of like blockchain to represent a, distributed ledger or some sort of very efficient version of what we have now.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the protocols on top of one, or smart contracts, or again, whatever nomenclature might evolve, is essential. I just don't really see a functioning future without that at all. Like and not just saying that, because again, that technology can be taken into many different directions, right? If you look at like, without proper privacy in place, then it can move in a direction where it's quite oppressive, and you're losing the very autonomy that we're trying to provide. So the bigger answer there again is, yes, we need the technology, yes, we need the governance, yes, we need the protocols. And AI will still, if we didn't, I'm not saying AI doesn't eat the world and flourish. It certainly will. Though, if I were to like put my futurist hat on and be like, what would be the 5 steps that happen? Let's just like very quickly go down a reality that didn't have, let's say, like a set of blockchains underpinning all of these things we might need, like, again, asset ownership, identity. Then we probably see the centralization of a number of big models and players. They all have their different designs, biases, etc. And they're all fed on the same bullshit garbage data on the internet that is now being pumped
Mm-hmm.
out of those same systems, or from people, or I mean, the argument, what is it? The dead internet theory. This might be like too out there. Have you heard this? Kind of
Yeah, where most of the internet is not even real people.
thoughts. I was at an event with Dell Technologies, like sitting on stage a year ago today with their CTO. And like, he was like, yeah, that's not wrong. And I was like, okay, so I'm, not too on the fringes here. So imagine that, just like hold space for that being a possibility. More bots than humans feeding out more generated repurposed content, then no matter what the model is, it will collapse. It's called model collapse. It's just when the system is so flattened and it keeps being fed with the same thing, it stops working or providing anything new, and it actually breaks. So I think without proper things in place, like actually the systems themselves might not even work unless some sort of like artificial general super intelligence can fix that problem for itself, which is maybe what's already happened or is happening and we're just not privy to. But either way, I think if we have a chance at this point of I don't want to say like protecting humanity, but like maintaining it, or maintaining and working in a collaborative way with these systems, or even if you wanted to believe in emergent consciousness. I don't like think that myself, but some people might. Then it is our responsibility to at least give it a shot. I don't think it's going to be one of the dominant players that does this. So the question is, where is it coming from? Is it going to be coming out of the AI world? Will it be one of the blockchain ecosystems or Web3 ecosystems that decides to kind of put forth a project or alternative? I hope so. So yeah, I think the future that I am aligning to and that I want to live in has both of these things integrated.
I agree too. I think that that's likely the situation in the future that we probably will go down. I don't want to pigeonhole it and say that we will, but I'm at least optimistic that we go that direction where we have certain technologies helping us to improve and regulate, I think, in some circumstances, other technologies like blockchain and AI, or maybe AI and a different tech and for different use cases. I think it's important for all these industries to find ways to connect with each other, because we don't want an empty, dead internet. We don't want people feeling they can't trust technology, to be scared of technology. We have enough unfounded fears of it, thanks to Hollywood and the stigmatizing sense that has happened over many years, especially with AI.
I know.
Of all things,
the robot Terminator wars, and it's
yeah.
And I think solving some of those problems, again, which is largely a misinformation or fear, that can be overcome. And it's not overcome by putting like bunny ears and making the robot cuter and less scary. It's empowering people. People need to be empowered and confident, both in terms of like their use of the tools and technologies, but also knowing that they're confident that if they work with them, that like they're safe and their shit's not being stolen, like just like plain and simple. That might be a good place. Start with trust. And I think trust can exist between machine and machine, or between human and machine, whether that's through cryptography or through yet another iteration of some consensus algorithm. And I say algorithm loosely,
Sure.
Like I don't need it to mean like math or computers, but just that set of protocols. I think we can figure that out.
Absolutely. I think that's a good place to leave off on. This has been a really good episode. We've covered a tremendous amount. Again, very excited for what you're doing and to see where you go next, and for your book. Obviously, let's do another episode again here in the near future when things continue to develop out.
Would love that. Thank you so much for having me. It was good to see you.